Hey guys, and welcome back to our 5-minute take. I want to answer a question today, a question that we will all wrestle with probably multiple times in our life. And it's just this simple. How do you get through a bad day? What should be my response as a follower of Jesus when circumstances around me are not what I would like them to be? And so I want to answer that question by turning to a text that really gives us a great insight. And I believe that the historical context of these verses that I'm going to read to you is equally important. And it's this. You've got King David, at this time in history, one of the most powerful men on the planet. He's going through the second worst day of his life. His grown son has led a coup in his kingdom and has chased David off his throne. And he's out in the barren parts of his kingdom by himself. Now, the reason I say this is the second worst day of his life is because we know from Scripture that David lost a child. And as a parent, I've just got to tell you, I could not imagine the pain that he must have felt on the day in which his child died. So that's why I say this is the second worst day of his life. And on the second worst day of David's life, when everything around him seemed glum and the circumstances were just about as bad as they could get, we read this in Psalm 63. "O God, you are my God. Earnestly," or some translations read, "early will I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh longs for you in a dry and a thirsty land where there is no water. So I have looked for you in the sanctuary to see your power and your glory. Because your loving kindness is better than life, my lips shall praise you." So we've got just a handful of moments left together. How do I respond to a bad day? I think our text offers us 3 responses to a bad day. Number 1, even on the bad day, recognize God's presence and God's sufficiency. How does David begin? With personal possessive terminology. "Oh God, you are my God." God, you're big enough to be over all of your creation, and you're small enough to sit right here next to me in the barren part of my kingdom and know the pain and feel the pain and care about the pain inside of my heart. So number 1, recognize God's sufficiency. And some of you have listened to me preach before or been through SLU. This next statement's not going to be very new to you, but nonetheless, it's worth remembering and recalling to memory often on days that don't make sense. God's presence in our lives is God's provision for our lives. God's enduring, unfailing, never-ending presence in your life and in my life is God's provision for my life. So the first step on a bad day is to recognize the presence of God and the sufficiency of God. I think our text suggests a second response, and that is, our second response should simply be this, that we should position ourselves on a bad day where we can desire God deeply. Now, hang on with me for just a moment. When I desire God deeply, it pushes those unwanted feelings to the margins of my life and then over the edge. We literally can replace a bad day with deep desire. We can replace unfortunate circumstances with a deep sense of longing for God. As a matter of fact, I'll go so far as to say this. When you're going through a bad day is actually the best opportunity to long deeply for God. So, number 1, recognize God's sufficiency and presence. Number 2, desire God deeply. And number 3, on a bad day, even when it doesn't make sense, trust God completely. How does David end these 3 verses that we just read? "Because your loving kindness is better than life, my lips shall praise you." Second worst day of his life. And what is he saying to God? Hey, listen, everything right now stinks. My own son turned on me. Counselors and confidants turned on me. I'm supposed to be one of the most powerful men in the world, and I'm sitting out here in the barren parts of my kingdom. But you know what I'm going to decide to do? I'm going to decide to worship the Lord my God. Oh God, you are my God. Earnestly will I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh longs for you in a dry and a thirsty land where there is no water. So I've looked for you in the sanctuary to see your power and your glory. And because your loving kindness is better than life and better than all the bad circumstances and better than any bad day, my lips shall praise you. God bless you. I'll see you next time.